Good evening, everybody. So today I'm going to show you how to make pig's feet and collard greens. And I'm going to be cooking it in my Power XL pressure cooker. So right now I already have a little olive oil in the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to add one large onion and about 6 to 8 cloves of garlic that I chopped into the pan to saute that. And right now I have the pressure cooker on saute mode, I believe. And I'm also going to add one large red bell pepper, a green bell pepper, a yellow bell pepper, and probably 3 stalks of celery. And as you can see, I'm using my paper plates because I hate to dirty dishes because then I'm the only one that's going to have to wash them because I don't have a dishwasher. So I'm going to go ahead and saute that for a few minutes, and you don't need to saute it until it turns brown or translucent or anything like that, because with this recipe you're going to be adding the chicken stock and water to it, so it's going to cook down anyway. It's going to make it soft just in the cooking process on its own, and you don't want to like be sauteing it too long because then basically you'll cook them up to nothing and you won't have anything um, to like bite down on, because I love the taste of fresh uh, bell peppers and onions in my dishes. So then after that, I'm going to add 4 cups of chicken broth um, to it. But first, I'm going to mix some things in with the chicken broth before I add it to the pot. And I'm going to also add a half cup of apple cider vinegar. That helps with the tenderizing of the pig's feet also, and it it does like double duty because it also adds flavor to the dish also. And so that's a win-win. Then I'm going to use my one tablespoon, and I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of cornstarch to the chicken broth. And then after that, I'm going to go ahead and add 1 tablespoon of crushed red pepper flakes. Give it a little spice. And then I'm going to also add 3 tablespoons of the Worcestershire sauce. I love the way that makes dishes taste also, especially when you're putting it in soup or stock bases. You can really taste it. It adds a different type of flavor to your dish. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that up a little bit, whisk it up, and I'm going to go ahead and add the apple cider vinegar and try to go ahead and incorporate all of that together in that one little cup, because again, I don't like to wash a lot of dishes at the end of the night. So less is more for me. I'm going to go ahead and get a fork because that whisk just was not doing it for me. So I'm going to go ahead and get a heavy fork and come back and start to really whisk it up, because that cornstarch decided that it was going to settle at the bottom of the chicken broth as I was adding the other items and clumped all up together. But it's not going to beat me. So I'm going to go ahead and mix all of that up together. And also, this is my first time cooking the pig's feet in the pressure cooker. I've cooked them before just on the stove, but never in a pressure cooker. So this is my first time doing that. My mom does it all the time, and she says that it's easier and it tastes just the same, and actually they get a lot more tender. So today was my day to find out and test her theory. And those are the pig feet that I got. I buy them from a small market in my mom's neighborhood, and they actually slice them in half. But you can find them whole at other supermarkets, like large supermarkets like Winn-Dixie and Walmart and things like that. You can actually find them whole. But I didn't mind them being cut in half because actually it made it easier for you to be able to eat them. And I'm going to go ahead and add them to the pot with the sauteed vegetables that are already done in the bottom. And I'm going to go ahead and add that mixture of the chicken stock, apple cider vinegar, the 6 tablespoons of cornstarch, the crushed red pepper, and the Worcestershire sauce. I'm going to add that and pour it over the pig's feet. And clean up my mess a little bit back there in the background. Because of course I spilled some. I wouldn't be me if I didn't spill something or knock something over. So then I'm trying to basically stir everything and get everything incorporated and get, the liquid on top and things like that. And now I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. And I always buy salted butter. I don't bother buying the unsalted butter, and I never had a problem with adding salted butter or anything, with it being like too salty or anything like that. And I'm also going to add some of my favorite Tabasco sauce to this also, and I'm going to add uh, 5 tablespoons of Tabasco sauce. Because if you can't tell yet, I like everything spicy. Sorry if I'm being too quiet during the video. I don't usually do voiceover videos, so bear with me here. I don't want to talk too much, and then I'm not sure if I'm talking enough. Okay, so right there, I just showed you um, the onion powder. So I'm going to be adding some onion powder to it right now, and I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of granulated onion powder. Same thing with the parsley. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of parsley to it. And then right here, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of paprika. And then we're going to go ahead and add some ground black pepper. I'm just going to add a teaspoon of the ground black pepper because I don't want to give it like too much spice because of all the other spices that I've already added to it. So I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of ground black pepper. I don't know about you, but this is looking good to me already. I can't wait to eat some of it. So then I'm going to go ahead and add the granulated garlic, and I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of that. Okay, I'm trying to stir it up a little bit, and right now I'm going to be adding 4 cups of water, and that's just plain old bottled water. I don't use faucet water to cook with, so that's going to be the purified water that I'm adding to it. And like I said, it's going to be 4 cups, just enough to almost cover everything in the pot. And I believe this is um, the 8-quart Power XL pressure cooker. But it's the bigger one, so I think it's 8 quarts because I think the smaller one is 6 quarts. So there I'm going ahead and putting the top on it and turning the uh, cap on the back to seal. And here I am setting it right now, and I'm going to set it on the cook slash meat button, and I'm going to cook it for 40 minutes. So it's going to pressure cook for 40 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and take a look at it now. It just stopped. We're going to check it and see how it's looking. That's the steam that I'm letting out. And be careful because that steam is really, really hot. You can peel the skin right off of you. And there it is. The broth is nice and golden colored. You can see the bell peppers and the onions and the celery in there, the garlic. And if you had smell-o-vision, you would fall over because it smells absolutely delectable in here. It smells so good. So I'm going to go ahead on and get a fork and test it because you need to test to see whether or not the skin has gotten soft enough on it. Because if not, it's not going to be done and it's going to be chewy and you're just not going to enjoy it because the skin actually needs to get, and the fat has to get so soft that you barely have to chew it. So right there you can see as I'm poking each one of them that it's not quite where it needs to be. It's giving me a lot of resistance when I try and poke it with the fork. So we're going to go ahead and put the top back on it. And we're going to seal it again. We're going to restart it back on the same setting actually. I'm going to go ahead and push the chicken and meat button, and we're going to give it another 40 minutes. And it's going to build up pressure for a few minutes, and then it'll start the timer and the countdown. And then here we are. That was the second time that I cooked it. So I'm going ahead and letting the steam off. I'm going to take the top off when it finished steaming and look at it and see what it's looking like. Ooh, steam, baby, steam. And then here we are. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. I cannot wait. So as you can see, these pig feet are done. See that? Tender, fork tender. Giving it a little tasty taste. And it was right where it needed to be. It needed a little more seasoning. So of course I'm going to add a little of my pre-mixed house seasoning that I blend myself. I'm going to go ahead and get that and add that to it to top it off. And it's almost time to eat. And there it is. Now it may look like that's an awful lot of seasonings that I'm putting on there, but trust me, it is nowhere near too much. It's going to put it right where it needs to be. So we're going to go ahead and just let that sit, and we're going to start the collard greens. So right now I have a little olive oil in the bottom of the pot, and I'm adding a little bit more, and we're going to put 2 tablespoons of butter in with the olive oil. And also that butter is salted butter. And we're going to go ahead and melt that in the olive oil for a few seconds. So now it's starting to brown a little bit, so we're going to go ahead and add the onion. I used 1 large onion. And we're going to go ahead and saute the onion in the butter and olive oil mixture for a few minutes. Then we're also going to add some minced garlic. I'm going to add two tablespoons of the minced garlic. I'm going to do it by eye. I'm going to mix that around, saute that with the onions. We're going to let that cook down a little bit until it gets translucent. Sorry if you hear someone talking. That's my 3-year-old. She's still running amok. Okay, go ahead and go play. Well, baby, put your glasses on. Put your sunglasses on. I don't see. Okay, pick them up. So now we're going to start the collard greens, and these are the collard greens that I'm using. I bought those from Winn-Dixie. And they're the shredded collard greens. So we already have the onion and garlic sauteed. So we're just going to add the shredded collard greens to the pot. And I have my burner on medium high. I'm going to put as much greens in the pot as I can right now because they're just going to cook down because they have a lot of water in them. So that whole bag is going to fit in that pot. So after I stir it up and incorporate the onion and garlic with the greens, I'm going to put the top on it and let it cook down for a little bit, and then I'm going to come back and add some more greens to the pot and keep doing that until the whole bag has been added to the pot. And I'm going to add a little bit of water to get the greens started, like sweating down. And I'm not going to add a lot of water because I don't really like my greens to be really wet like some people cook them.
Sorry, I couldn't find anything to do that. To get started, you'll need a smart kitchen appliance.
And I'm going to put a little bit more in before I put the top on. And I'm going to let it go ahead and cook down a little bit with the top on. And here you see they've cooked down a whole lot. I'm going to go ahead and add a few tablespoons of my special seasoning blend that I make myself to season them up because until right now there was nothing else on them, not even salt and pepper. Then I'm going to add a little bit of apple cider vinegar because it also is going to help to tenderize the greens and give you a little flavor, give the greens a little bite, give it like that tangy flavor when you're eating them. Here. And I'm going to stir it up. And then right there, that was like a part of my aggravation because I didn't realize that was my first time buying the bag collard greens, and that was my first time uh, buying them and cooking them. So I noticed that there was quite a few stems in it, and some people have told me that they cook down eventually, but I don't have that kind of time, and just you know, I don't like biting down on those stems because I cooked it, and I saw them, and I just went ahead and started pulling them out. There were a few still in that I didn't get that were smaller, and they definitely didn't taste like they had cooked down to me. They weren't really hard, but they were crunchy. And when I'm eating my greens, I don't really want to be eating anything crunchy because greens is something that you expect to be crunching down on something when you're eating it. Nariel, Nariel, go ahead in the room. So that kind of threw me for a loop, having to stop and pick all of those stems out. And there, I'm going to go ahead and add the pigtails. I'm going to say that's roughly about 2 pounds of pigtails, 2.5 maybe. And I had a few of the smoked pigtails from another time when I cooked, I think, some cabbage or either red beans. So that's one of the smoked pigtails. And I just threw it in with the regular pigtails, and that's the other one. I had them in the freezer, so I just pulled them out and added them to those. And the pigtails have already been boiled ahead of time. So while I was cooking the pig's feet, I was actually boiling the pigtails on the stove. And usually I boil them in a pot of water for cover them with water and boil them for about an hour, an hour and a half, depending on how long it takes for them to get tender. And basically, you do the same thing with them. You like stick a fork in them to see, if the meat feels tender and, the fat that's on it. So I already boiled them. So they were and I boiled them and trimmed them down, trimmed off some of the fat because I don't like all of that extra fat on them. So I trimmed them down, rinsed them off, and just set them aside to wait to get ready to cook the greens. And as you can see, I'm adding a little water and a little bit more butter. I just add a little bit of water because the little water that I put in it and a little bit of water that they made actually had cooked out. So just to make sure that they're moist and tender, I went ahead and added a little bit more water and some more butter for flavor. I just tested a piece to see, if it was seasoned enough or tender, and it wasn't seasoned enough, so I'm adding a little bit more of that seasoning that I blend. And as I said before, it may look like it's a lot of seasoning going in, but it really isn't. They're going to be seasoned perfectly. And then here I'm going to add a little sugar to help cut down on the gas and also the bitterness of the collard greens. So I'm going to go ahead and put the top back on and then let them cook down a little bit. And here I am stirring it up. And basically, they're done. You can look at them and see that they're done. And I think roughly that took me maybe 30 minutes from start to finish, 30 to 45 minutes, because like I said, the pigtails were already boiled and done. So basically I just threw them in there to warm them through and cook the greens, and greens don't take that long, especially when they're shredded like that and they're cut so finely. And here I am plating it up with those delicious, delicious pig's feet that were ready. I was supposed to cook cornbread with the greens. I like rice with my greens sometimes, but I don't have to have rice. I prefer to eat it without rice. But I usually do cook rice in case someone else, wants some rice with theirs. But on that day, less was more for me. And I didn't cook the cornbread because last minute I realized I didn't have any cornbread. I forgot to buy the cornbread when I went to the store. But it wasn't a deal breaker because it was delicious anyway. It didn't need a filler in order for me to enjoy those. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below and I'll be sure to answer you. Thanks for watching. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks so much.